A lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence, but very few people understand it. Maybe help us explain that.
I always tell people artificial intelligence, as you know, is basically machines being able to do things that human or has capability of what human beings can do. I was fortunate to sit with the Nobel Peace Prize, Maria Ressa, and she's the one person who's put this very clearly, that artificial intelligence is neither artificial or intelligent, right? So it still builds from human beings. And so where this technology is going, in my view, is that, of course, it keeps on changing. The artificial intelligence we had 3 years ago is not the one that we have now, right? In terms of generative artificial intelligence, it means AI that actually is able to generate its own new knowledge, new outputs, but based still on some key foundations. And that in a way, as you know, is a problem, because if it's generating new outputs from an existing data set, or what we call foundation models, Africa and the Global South are not necessarily in this space. And so when you ask me where this is going, I think we must have a very serious reflection as countries in Africa to think about how do we ensure that we are part of this new technological revolution. I always say that the three things or the three key elements, or the three pillars of AI is data, compute, and talent. If you use that as a matrix and to anchor that around how our current development path is sort of being shaped, you find that we are really not investing in these three things, right? We're not investing in data. Our data systems are still very weak. When I say data includes our local languages, right? The second piece is compute. Compute, of course, is internet infrastructure. Is the hardware itself, but also is electricity. Look at Africa in terms of those three. I think we have questions to answer. Talent, in terms of our education system. Our education systems are not agile enough to be able to be responsive to these new markets. And in education, it's actually a market failure, right? You need to be building for a market that actually exists. The market exists, but we're not building for it. So those are the three things that I think Africa needs to think about. The fourth one, of course, is this whole issue of governance. How do you ensure that we govern or we apply, we govern in a way that does not stifle innovation? If we really have an introspection on those four things, and again, deliberately invest in these things, I think we can start to have a real conversation in the globe. But also, we must also put the developed world to task, because a lot of these capabilities are concentrated either amongst a few countries and a few companies. It means that we must have a real conversation around technology cooperation, in some cases technology transfer, and in most cases equalization, because then these technologies are not applied within an equal footing. So I feel we need a global conversation, and that's why my role in the UN Artificial Intelligence body selected by the Secretary General is very much around looking at the enablers. And looking at the enablers, meaning we need to sort of begin to think about how do we help developing countries invest in these enablers, but also how do we ensure that it's done in a way that is also respectful. It's not about tokenism. It's also about building capability so that we can also, we can also develop together.
Let's try to unpack some of those things. Let's talk about data. What can Africans do, for that matter, to be able to tap into this technology? Obviously, for one to succeed using these platforms, especially AI, you need data. It's not the lack of data on the African continent, but it's how we have stored that data. So what can Africans do to tap into that?
One thing also is how are we collecting the data, right? So because if you see, we collect data, but we miss the core elements of data: local languages, local content, culture. Because remember, what you see within the large language models is really an expression of society, right? So I need to be able to, for example, being able to build a large language model that also has Kiswahili in it, right? Otherwise, we talk about bias, has our faces, has our images, has our understanding. So that type of investment I have not seen. So African countries need to invest in data, not statistics. We are investing in statistics, and even then we don't do it enough. The second piece around investments for me is around, because data is processed. Again, it goes into the infrastructure piece. Are we investing in the infrastructure? Quality internet. We know now that a lot of our communities are not connected on the internet. And if they're not, and if they are, the quality is not there. And even if the quality is there, it's expensive. So the issues, I think African countries need to figure out enablers of access to the internet. Internet now should be a right. And so if it's a right like water, then we need to treat it that way. And how do we invest or even sometimes subsidize that? The other piece, of course, of data is talent. I mean, that's the biggest piece of it, because it cannot be centrally collected. It needs to be, we need to have investment around, if I'm a doctor, right? Doctor plus data science. So I always say doctor plus. I always say subject matter expert plus. Otherwise, right now, we think it's an ICT thing, so the techies will figure it out. It shouldn't.
Well, Philip, any final thoughts?
Africa is a continent poised to benefit tremendously from artificial intelligence. So let's get that as a mindset, and let's see what to do in terms of investing in the foundations that I mentioned.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time, Philip.
Thank you so much.